Bonsitu, it is so nice to meet you and to be in conversation with you today. I'm so honored to be in conversation with you, and I'm so inspired and amazed by all the work that you're doing right now. So I really would love to just like hop in and like really just start talking about everything. So my first question for you is, how is the reversal of Roe impacting people across the country?
Thank you, Lexi. Thanks for having me. I just need to take a breath because I think that question is really devastating because it is having a devastating impact on millions of people across this country.
Mhm.
Um, when Roe was officially overturned, I think it was a moment that sent shockwaves through the entire country. I was even in disbelief, even after I saw the leaked opinion from the US Supreme Court. I was still in disbelief that the court would, with a stroke of a pen, roll back decades of protections and civil rights that we have enjoyed and fought for many, many years.
Yeah.
And, states across the country immediately started enacting abortion bans, depriving thousands, if not millions of people of vital, safe health care. I think I can't even begin to imagine a situation where, someone is not prepared, ready to have a baby, or whose life might be threatened by even having a baby, and to think about the impact that this decision is going to have on their life and that child's life. It's unspeakable. And I think even more pointed is the idea that abortion bans will harm the people that are already facing systemic barriers to accessing healthcare.
Yeah.
Black women, you and me, people who are in the LGBTQ community, people in rural communities, people with modest incomes. These are the people that are going to be hit hardest because they already face barriers to accessing healthcare. And in Detroit, that's where I am right now. The maternal death rate for Black women is 3 times the national average.
Mm.
This is where we're going to see the breakdown, I think, of our communities. And I'm really feeling this moment for each individual that is going to be impacted by the rolling back of our fundamental rights.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I really want to touch on something that you just said because you're so right. Like the impact of the reversal of Roe v. Wade has affected everyone, but it's especially disproportionately impacted women of color and also the LGBTQ community. I feel as though there's like an intersection between the reversal of Roe v. Wade and then also like poverty, education, healthcare, and then medical racism. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about just even in Detroit what the birth and death rates are in Detroit, because it's something that I feel as though we don't talk about a lot, especially when we're talking about just the medical system in general and how Black women of color are being impacted by these issues on a day-to-day basis. And I'm speaking specifically as, being a part of Gen Z, but I feel as though like the energy on the ground is kind of like one of frustration and fear because it's like we've lived under this protection our whole lives somewhat. And now the thought of like having to live in a country that is cultivating a hostile environment towards women having freedom over their reproductive choices, it's incredibly daunting. So for you, I would love for you to touch on, just what's the energy like on the ground on your side as well with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you're absolutely right that people are angry. People are amped up. They want to fight back because imagine that our generation is going to live through having less fundamental freedoms and rights than our mother's generation. Like, how is that even possible? We're not supposed to be moving backwards. We're supposed to be moving forward and advancing. Um, there are so many critical issues on the ballot this midterm election. And I think on the ground, we're feeling that energy. We're feeling that people are fired up. There's reproductive freedom. There's voting rights. There's critical races and judicial races on the Michigan ballot in particular.
Mhm.
And I think Michigan in particular is ground zero for reproductive rights right now.
Yeah.
We are one of those states that has a law on the books from 1931 that makes all forms of abortion illegal and punishes providers for providing abortion care, except in the narrow case of saving the life of a pregnant woman. And if we don't stand up and if we don't express our values and our opposition to rolling back these rights, we're going to go back to 1931, where many of us didn't have a voice, where many of us didn't have even the fundamental right to choose what happens to our own body. And so I think that's what's really motivating people, getting them excited, angry, passionate about canvassing and going door to door and talking to people and encouraging the vote to get out and vote. I think that's the most important thing that we can do right now,
Yeah.
because this is such a critical moment, not only for Michigan, but for every single state in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're also saying, about getting out and voting, just how do you feel as though people can best support the work that you're doing because it's so important, whether they're in Michigan or people are watching from across the country? Like, just how can people best support the work that you're doing?
I think that the work that we are doing is the work that every individual should be doing themselves too. And so supporting our work is also supporting what you should be doing at home, getting active, researching what's on your ballot, researching the critical local issues that are going on in your community, and really understanding how the levers of power works,
Mhm.
and understanding that the most important way for us to express our voice, to express our collective power,
Mhm.
is through voting and encouraging others to vote and go together. I think it's going to be up to all of us to be guardians of this democracy. I think that January 6th and all the attempts at voting suppression and rolling back our rights is
Mhm.
just a vital, clear message that it's going to be up to each individual person to protect our democracy and to prevent this like backsliding into a really dangerous place for our country. So it starts with voting, and that's the way that we're going to hold our collective power and show what our values are. I
Mhm.
think you also have to, know what's on your ballot, research the issues that are on your ballot all the way up and down and turn it over and read all the way to the end, because every single race, every single issue that's on that ballot is important and deserves your attention and deserves your power and your interest.
Yeah, I absolutely love that you also touched on, especially like getting involved with the elections happening at the state and local level, because like I truly believe that those are imperative. The elections for like mayor, city council, school
Yeah.
board, judges. Like I feel as though that those are the spaces where we truly need to show up, because those are like the decision. Those are where the decisions are being made that affect our day to day lives. And historically, like turnout is lower, I feel as though, when it comes to those elections, but that's where our vote can have the most impact. So I really love that you're also using your voice and platform to try and get people out to really show up at the state and local level, because I feel as though that's where like the true showing up really matters.
I totally agree. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. And so what are some ways to encourage friends and families to get out and vote?
Great question. I think that we really have to instill in them the idea that this is a critical moment, and we can't sit on our, at home and just make sure or just think that someone else is going to do the work for us. We
Mm,
really have to remind everyone that it's going to be up to each individual person to ensure that our rights are not being rolled back, because
mm,
if today it's reproductive freedom, tomorrow it's going to be access to contraception or same-sex marriage or interracial marriage or any of the other fundamental constitutional rights that we've fought so hard for in this country. And
mm,
so these issues affect all of us. If not only affects us, but it affects our neighbors, our communities, and all of the generations that will come after us. So getting people excited and motivated and talking to them about the issues that they really care about whether that be racial justice or voting rights or reproductive freedom. There are so many issues that you can sort of sink your teeth into and get involved. And I think we need to stand up for what's right. People might not have the same level of access and privilege that we do, but they too have power, and they too can exercise that power in their vote. So I think that talking to friends and family
Mhm.
about the issues that they care about in the language that they understand and that resonates with them is going to be the most motivating factor, I think, in getting people out to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is really great advice. I definitely would love to piggyback off of what you're saying because, like, I find that when I'm like talking to friends, I feel as though the reason why they don't vote is because they get a little discouraged or even like disillusioned by thinking that their vote doesn't matter. So it's really important to continue to support even our friends and family during that time, and help them kind of see that their vote and their voice truly does matter. And I have one more question for you because the work that you're doing is so incredibly important, but I can't imagine also sometimes that it may take a toll on your mental health. So, how are you taking care of yourself as you're helping us in this fight?
Um, Sometimes it's very difficult, but I have to remember too that I can't be a good advocate without taking care of myself and making sure that I am healthy and happy
Yeah.
as well. So I take time to make sure that I'm connecting with my friends and family. Really, that time to just unplug and recharge with conversation and laughter is just something that fuels my heart and fills my soul. I'm also a person who is learning a new hobby, a new skill called aerial silks. And so I'm like a baby aerialist. And
Mhm.
that is something that's physically the most demanding thing and difficult thing that I've ever done. But it brings me so much joy because it's such a beautiful art form, and it really recharges me too. So I think also even simple things like getting outside, breathing fresh air, feeling the sun on my face has always made me, change my mood, get more energy, and ready to fight back. But those are just some of the ways that I take care of myself in this fight.
That is so great. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And thank you for dropping so many incredible gems today. I know that I found them incredibly helpful and can imagine what viewers will think of them as well. So I can't thank you enough. And it was so incredible to be in conversation with you today.
Thank you so much too, Lexi. And just remind everyone to make a plan to vote. That's the most important thing
Yes.
that you can do. Thank you so
Yes,
much for having me.
absolutely. Get out there and vote.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all.